Hello, 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 and welcome back to the BFA Baby podcast. I'm your host, Taylor Hartman, and welcome to season 2 of the show. We have our wonderful guest here, Goldie Jane, of the Lazy Ballerina Club, as you may know her on Instagram. And we're going to talk about dance, company life, what we're doing afterwards, teaching, all the fun things. So, Goldie, why don't you introduce yourself for us?
Oh my goodness. Hello. I'm so happy to be here. And before we started recording, I was saying that I already feel like we know each other.
Yeah.
We've DM'd each other. You have been such a sweet support since starting LBC. And I just had to start it off by saying that I'm so happy that we're officially meeting over this podcast or the Zoom. But that introduction was incredible. I'm
Yeah,
Goldie.
thank you.
I am a retired ballet dancer and now I'm a full-time ballet teacher, and I run the Lazy Ballerina Club on Instagram and YouTube, and that's really about it.
Yeah, I vividly remember being like, I was in, I was at my so my parents sold our house when I graduated high school, and I was at our old kitchen table, and you were like, I made stickers, can I send you some? And I was like,
Oh my
yes.
gosh. It's so funny because I was looking back at old footage that I stored away on a hard drive, and I randomly set my camera up that day when I was sending the stickers out, and I was actually talking to my boyfriend about it too before we were doing this podcast, and just saying how excited I was that I was able to send you stickers as
Yes, and
little
I
as
have
those
the
are.
note that you wrote me pinned up on my wall, and they're
Like,
on my choreography journal. I left it, I left my journal in one of the studios, and my friend found it, and she was like, I saw the Lazy Ballerina Club sticker, and I said, that's something that Taylor has.
oh
And
my God, that makes me really
so
happy.
she's the identifiable thing on my journal. But yeah, I remember
Yes.
that letter came to my childhood home,
Wow.
and now
Doesn't
I
feel so long ago.
yeah, it was so long. I mean, I was still in high school, and I was just about to leave.
Crazy. Time
But
flies.
yeah, it's so fun. So we carry LBC with us
Yes.
always.
Love it.
But
Love
let's start way before LBC. How did you get started dancing? Was it like me, you have a Midwest mom and you have a daughter, put her in ballet? Was it like that or
it. Honestly, minus the Midwest part of it, it was pretty much that. My mother was actually a dancer as well, and she was on Broadway, so more of the jazz, yes, and more like the jazz world. And now she's an incredible tap teacher. Tap is the one thing that I was never able to do, and I just wasn't interested in at all. Maybe because my mom did it, and whenever my mom did, I was like, no thanks, which is so stupid. But my mom was a dancer, and then my grandma was a dancer as well. She actually owned her own dance studio, and my whole family's in entertainment, so I feel like it was in my blood, and I was in ballet before I even knew what was happening, kind
no,
of.
that's so fun because I'm the only artist in my family. Everyone's like, where did you come from? What are you doing? Like
Well, how interesting. You know what? My brother is the one person not in the entertainment world. He's
yeah.
in the military, and we say the same thing about him. Where did you come from?
You're
You're
like,
not
this was the whole thing. Yeah. So it's that was probably so, and just being able to kind of look up to different generations of artists in your family. That was probably so just a cool thing to be around, have all the stories and
totally. And I always say that I'm the quiet one in the family, which is crazy to say. I'm not a very quiet person, but my family is crazy. But it's never a dull moment for sure.
no,
And
no, you can't,
a
you
lot
can't. And I
of
think because at school, we have people, I have peers whose parents own studios and kind of grew up in a similar way. And then it's just kind of I was like, hey guys, I'm going to college for dance. And they're like, you're doing what? And I'm like,
Oh, but that's so impressive. It's so hard to do it when your family doesn't really know the world. I had the opposite experience. They knew too much to the point where I was like, okay, this is my thing. Lay off. But what was that like?
it
You
was definitely there was definitely a lot of like, especially early in high school, because it was always like, oh, Taylor's gonna dance. Like it was never like there was a
Right.
home video of my mom asking my twin, Megan, what do you want to do when soccer's over? She's like, I want to play football. And she's like, what do you want to do when dance is over? I'm like, I want to keep dancing. And like
Wow.
I don't know if they thought that I was just gonna like grow out of it or whatever parents
Sure.
think, but
Right.
I just didn't. And I think they were like, my parents, they work like real jobs. They're accountants and like loss control specialists, and they do the business thing, like the 9 to 5. And I think they were like, that's not a real job. Like, what are you gonna, like, people don't make money off that. And I was like, but they do.
But they really do. They really do.
They really do. And it's definitely, there was a lot of back and forth about it. But I think like I got to college and I found my thing, and I think they're like, okay, she's like serious about this. This isn't just like I don't want to work a 9 to 5, so I'm gonna be an artist. It's like, no, like
Totally. No,
this is
this
a
is
thing.
real. This is what we're
Yeah.
doing. Get on board. Yeah, I
Yeah.
love that. That's awesome.
I think it definitely took a couple, and sometimes they're still back and forth about it, but I'm like, no, we're doing the thing. We're doing it.
Good for you. That's
And
incredible.
it's so funny because my twin just got into nursing school.
Wow.
So it's like Megan's in nursing school and I'm dancing around. But you know what?
But honestly, that is like perfect. So if someone needs a nurse, you got that. If someone needs some
Right,
entertainment, you're right there. It's
right.
perfect.
And someone has to be like the kid that like is like the crazy aunt. Someone has to have like the crazy aunt that goes and does all of the things.
I
That's
completely agree.
definitely where I stand in this. But yeah, so we grew up dancing, very fun,
Yes.
family in the entertainment industry. So then that transition into professional performance. Did you go to college like I'm at? Did you not? Because didn't you get a degree later on?
So my school journey was quite the journey, and I hate using the word journey because like the journey, everyone is on a journey, but it's like the easiest word to use. My schooling was like really not my strong suit. I left normal school in after my sophomore year of high school to homeschool to like go for ballet like full
Do
time.
the thing.
I do the thing, like really jump in. And I always think like when I look back at that time, I feel like if I didn't homeschool, I probably wouldn't be or wouldn't have been able to be as successful as I was. Like I was definitely the person that I just had to like go for it. And I didn't go to college. I left high school and I was doing it online, but like not as consistent as I should have. And I actually ended up not graduating until COVID happened. And it's this like super long story, but I ended up going back and getting my high school diploma. And that was something that like was always in the back of my mind of like I said that I didn't care about it, but I definitely cared about it and I took the time to do it during COVID. And yeah, so I didn't go to school or I didn't go to college. And after I turned, I think I was just about to turn 18, I moved to DC to dance at the Washington School of Ballet year-round program. And then the next year after that, I got my first contract as a second company member at Ballet Met in Columbus, Ohio. So yeah,
So a
so
little bit
wow,
of a meandering path, but we got there.
totally.
I
Yes.
I I remember I remember because it was like it was COVID, like kind of COVID adjacent when I was like starting to audition for schools.
Yep.
And I remember like you and your little diploma and you had the dress on, and I was like, oh my God, she's a star. And I was like,
Totally. But like, I mean, I look back at that time and I'm so proud that I did it and I went back because throughout my life, I just like lied to people. I was like, oh yeah, I graduated like when everyone else did.
yeah,
Like, no worries. And I also felt like I was doing what I wanted to do and I was successful in it. So I was kind of just like, why do I need to go back and do the thing to get me to
right.
where I'm at now? Which in hindsight, like obviously it's important and I'm very glad that I did it. But yeah, it was definitely something that I had to overcome and like face my like shame behind it that I didn't
Yeah.
graduate when I was supposed to, but Now it's
But you
like,
graduated now and
totally,
got
yeah,
the
all part of
GEDs
the
done.
story, you know?
Yeah, and I
Yeah.
think it's especially a thing like with doing like a non-traditional career thing. Like there's so many things that you don't think you because like I mean I went to a private high school, graduated with like 90 people. It was like you're going into STEM or you're going to theology. And I was like, I'm gonna be an artist. And they were like, what?
Yeah,
And it's like there's so many
totally.
things you're like, oh, I don't care about it. But then it's like things will come up like a peer I went to high school with goes to a college like right up the street from ours. And we'll talk and I'm always like, do you remember like in high school, like all the shit everyone gave me, like how I wasn't gonna have a real job and like all this stuff? And I was like, but it's like, it's things you don't think matter, but then you kind of like get away from it for a bit and you're like, let's fix that, let's repair that, let's
100%. And like when you're like in high school world, everything feels so
it's
big.
so life or death for nothing.
Yes, it's so life or death. Everything matters. And it's just like my life will never be the same if this thing doesn't happen or if this person says this, X, Y, and Z, whatever. And then you like take a couple years away from it and you're like, oh, everything's fine.
Oh
Like,
no, I tell like the theater kids that came in when I was a freshman or when I was a senior and they were freshmen, I was like, guys, it's the stakes are not as high as you think they are. You're gonna
yep.
feel it and they're not. Like it's
Yep.
so not.
Yeah, it's wild. And I feel like that's like with everything in life. Like as soon as
Yeah.
you like get through something, you look back and you're like, why was I so stressed? Like
No, it was
everything.
not that deep.
Yeah,
Because it's like
for
I'm succeeding and I'm doing the thing and I'm like
going for it.
going
Yeah,
for it. And it's
totally.
like I always say like I'd rather live in a little shoebox apartment and love my life than a mansion and like hate going to work every day.
Amen, sister. Amen. I feel the same way. Feel the
And I'm
same
just
way.
like if I love my like that's what we're chasing. We're chasing the dream, yes, but like loving life, just doing what
Yep,
because like there's
exactly.
no universe that I would be happy like being an engineer, even though I probably would have been respected a little bit better by my teachers in high school if I did.
But like, who cares? Like, those teachers are probably jealous that you are actually going for what you believe in, and they probably wish that they could do it.
Go do the thing. Yeah, and I was like, also my sisters became nurses and data scientists, so I can
Wow.
spice it up a little bit.
Put it up. I love it.
Spice it up. So professional, you mentioned something. I saw it like in your YouTube clip where you were like, if I went back to my professional career now, I'd be
Oh,
like girl bossing it up.
oh yeah. I feel like, and I don't want to like have this sound like conceited or whatever, but like I just feel like I would be unstoppable
Yeah.
only because of like we were just saying, when you step back from like any situation, you have a new perspective and you
Yeah.
can like look at the same situation with different eyes, and like we just said again, it's not that deep, and I could
No.
just kind of like put on like a bulletproof vest or like a force field and just do what I do and not let all of that like outside like voices or people affect me as much,
No,
you
and I
know?
feel that even like with what I've learned in like my 2-ish years here in school already, it's like if I could go back to who I was in high school, like I would just be like better, healthier dancer. Like I'd know what's going on.
Yep.
Like it
Yep.
just, you just learn, you don't think you learn that much. And then you look back and you're like, she had no idea what she was doing.
No idea. No idea. And just like all of the like personalities that I let get into my brain, and then like
Yes.
comparing myself and like thinking about the directors at the front of the room and like thinking that I can control the situation and I can't control the situation. And like I made myself sick over trying to think about all of the things that were happening instead of just like focusing on myself and enjoying what I was doing.
Yeah.
And
You're
I
like,
think
you're
it's paid
doing the
off.
thing.
Yeah. Yeah, for
Like I
sure.
talked about it in the season 1 finale, but it's like, if like 9-year-old Taylor saw what I was doing, she'd be thrilled. So why isn't 20-year-old Taylor thrilled with what she's doing?
Right. Right. Like that's like everything. And I think like with anything in life, you have to like keep checking back in with yourself because Now that you're saying that out loud, I'm thinking about 9-year-old Goldie, thinking about 28-year-old Goldie. Like, she'd be stoked. Like, she'd be really
Literally.
so excited. But like when you're in it, you're just like, oh, it's another day. Like these are the things that I'm dealing with, you know?
Yeah, when you're
Which,
in it, it's like, oh my God, what if they don't like my choreography? And then it's
oh
like,
my gosh,
guys, it's like,
totally.
guys.
Like everything's fine.
I
Everything's
we I'm submitting like a student work for adjudications to be put in our spring dance concert, and we have to have like a faculty member come in. We just had our faculty member come in. Shout out Brittany if you're listening to this, but
oh.
shout out Brittany. But I was like sitting there and I was like, what if she thinks like what if I'll never make anything good in my life? And I'm like, okay, no, she's literally here to help you. Like you're
Yeah.
learning.
Yes. Yeah.
You're
No,
learning.
not everything is like people are like testing you and judging you.
No,
You're just like
no,
going for it and you're learning and maybe it won't be that good and that's okay because you're
that's
gonna do
okay.
it again, you know?
It's like I'm the biggest thing that I've had to remind myself is like you're a baby adult. Like you like you're learning all these things and obviously like the first thing you do isn't going to be like the masterpiece of your career, like
100%. Yes. Can I still consider myself as a baby adult too, even though
yes.
I'm 8?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Woo!
Well, you're like a 10-year-old adult.
Oh man,
It's
that's
not
good.
a like what
That's
did you know about anything at 10 years old? Nothing.
nothing. Nothing. I know nothing now. Like same
Right,
situation.
so
That's
continually know nothing.
yeah, it's fine.
It's no, we're chilling, but yeah. So we danced and we learned. And how did we get from being in Ohio to where we are with Lazy Ballerina Club now?
Oh my goodness. So Ohio feels like a century ago. And um I was only in Ohio in Columbus for 1 year. I was in the second company for just like one season. And then I got my job at Kansas City Ballet and I joined their second company for two
Sorry, my
seasons.
parents just moved to Kansas City. Like
Really? Oh my
I'm
God.
born and raised St. Louis.
I loved Kansas City. And I feel like I was there for 5 years. And like throughout the 5 years that I was living there, like the city changed so much. And no one realizes how sweet of a city it is. Like it is so,
I haven't been there a lot, but I grew up in St. Louis and my parents moved back and it's just I love KC. Like I mean, obviously there's like it's just kind of weird because it's like my parents moved after I graduated and it's like I don't know
right.
anything, but the
Yeah.
time I've spent there I've really enjoyed.
Oh, it's amazing. I always think about like all of this like little spots that I used to go to. Like there was this breakfast place
Yo,
in
I'm about to write it down.
City.
I'm about to write it down next time I go see
Oh
my
my God.
parents.
You have to go to this breakfast place. I can't even think about it without my mouth like salivating. It's called Mildred's. And I think they have like a few locations now, but I went there every single morning. Like I would walk in, I wouldn't have to order. They would just like put my sandwich in. Like
They'd be like
I was
she knows.
totally. It was my favorite place. I think about it all the time. I just need to go back to Kansas City to go back to Mildred. So now you have to go.
We have a spare
When
bedroom, so it sounds like you're coming.
Perfect.
It sounds
Yes.
like we have a reunion.
Yes, totally. But oh man, I just got
That's
so
so crazy. I had no idea you were ever in Missouri. That's so crazy.
yeah, I was there for 5 years and then I was in their second company for 2 seasons and then I got promoted to the main company and then I was there all the way through COVID and then or right before COVID and then I decided to leave and then the world shut down and
And
that's
everything was just like the worst.
yes, but through that and like during COVID, that's when LBC was created. It was like
Yeah.
my passion project that kind of blossomed in that time. So,
And I think like I just want to shout out that like LBC came in my life at such a critical part. Cause like I was auditioning for colleges and like that's like ask anyone that's doing it. They're like, that's the worst thing that's ever happened to you.
oh,
Like it's
yeah.
just like no one has a good time doing it. Like
Right.
it's because you're like, this is my life. And like obviously it's not that deep, but like it also kind of is. It's like,
Yeah.
that's your future,
It
that's your education.
matters. Yeah.
And it's like I always tell people like I'd have really invasive surgery before I would do this again. Like I just wouldn't. And I just
Oh,
remember like the first couple things that are like, hey, chill out. Like we're
Yeah.
embracing ourselves as people, and that's positively influencing our dancing.
Yep.
Because a
Yep.
lot of times growing up, it's like you're a dancer and you're a person, but you're a person like back here.
Totally.
You're a
And I
person
think,
in the
yeah.
parking lot, and you walk
Yep.
in and it's over.
Right. And I think like especially, I don't know, over the years with LBC, it's like gone through waves and sometimes like people like kind of like twist what my posts are about. I'm a very sarcastic person and I've always lived by like the idea of like if you don't laugh about a situation, you will cry about the situation. So you might
This
as
is true.
well make it funny and like see the light of it. So that's always been my approach with all of my posts in LBC, but sometimes people think I like hate the dance world or like hate everything about it and it's not about that. It's just like again, making it feel less deep so it's like more manageable. And like we're all in it together. We're all feeling these feelings. So why not laugh about it and like bond together and say all of the things that we're all thinking?
No, real. And it's like I've never, I mean, maybe it's because I also have like a dry, sarcastic, like that's kind of where I fall. And I've never once felt she's been like, fuck this. Like, it's just never been
No.
that.
Or if there was a moment and I posted about it, I was very direct. Like you'll know when I'm saying fuck this or fuck that. Like
Right.
but for the most part, I don't know. I like to have a good time. And this might not be the good, like the best thing, but like sometimes when I post, I forget that like other people can see it. I don't know if that makes any sense, but
No,
like,
it's valid. It's valid.
like I'm in my own house and in my own world, and I'm just sitting on my couch and I'm like, oh, I think that's silly and fun. And then I post it, and then I get messages or like whatever, and I'm like, oh, wait, people are
Oh,
actually
literally,
like
I'll
seeing
put
this.
something sarcastic about like I follow this one account and it's like about like if like former private school kids, and I'll like put something snarky about it and people from high school are like, what is this? And I was like, oh yeah, sorry, you're also here.
Right. Like I forget that other people can just like watch all of the
I'm like,
things.
oh, you're also here.
But oh well. Still
But no,
fun.
it's like because it really took coming to college for me to be like, I am a person that dances.
Right.
And
Right.
like, did you have a like a moment where you were like, oh, this is like it's all the same person?
Yes. Yes. Well, my path has it's like a little complicated
The
because
journey.
the journey, yeah, I was trying to not go use that word. Like going back to like how my mom was a dancer and my grandma was a dancer, like I always had this feeling of like I didn't feel like I chose my path as a ballet dancer. And I actually talk about it in my like latest video that I just posted that I was like naturally gifted enough to get into things or to get scholarships without like really trying as much. And I was just riding on my potential, which was great. But I never felt like I was the one making that decision until I was like old enough to realize that, like, oh, wait, I actually do love this and like,
Yeah.
let's go for it. Like, but it did take a second. And then when I got into my professional career, and the stakes were higher and the directors were more strict and like the drama was like crazy
Up
um
here.
like up here that's when I really started seeing it and I actually had to um deal with like a personal situation with my ex-boyfriend at the time.
It's always the
He
ex-boyfriends.
It's
It
always
really
the
is.
boyfriend, but this was like right before I decided to leave, and my boyfriend at the time got sick and he had a brain tumor.
Oh,
And I it was like
a whole
such a
thing.
trauma looking back, but we were dating for like 6 months and he goes to get an MRI. They tell him he has a brain tumor. And of course, I'm in the middle of shows. I just got promoted and I he had to get rushed into emergency surgery, like the whole
You
deal.
like
Like,
can't make this up.
yeah, this was like a full on like soap opera situation. And I decided to leave my shows to be with him because this could like the surgery wasn't like it was
It
brain
wasn't
surgery.
like, oh, just like your casual everyday.
Yeah, it was like you got to be there. And I just remembered like that moment like really clicking in my brain like I love this thing. I love ballet. I love my career, and I'm not willing to sacrifice my life and like who I am as a person. And who I am as a person is to be there for the people that I love when they need me or to whatever the situation is. And I think that was the moment where I was like, oof, this is not worth it. If I can't do this and not be punished for it, I got to reevaluate. But
Yeah.
that's like a whole other conversation. I could talk about that for
But
years.
definitely like I mean that's like that I mean that's something I'm like facing. Obviously not as dramatic. That's like
Yeah,
straight
I
out
mean,
of
it's very dramatic. Yeah.
that's straight like straight life-changing moment. But like I mean that
Yeah.
was like something as simple as like so my mom's dream for our family is to go on a spring break trip. Like that's just been her dream. And like we
Amazing.
finally got it to all work out and it's like next week and it was just like the stupidest thing of being like I'm gonna miss rehearsals to be on the trip with my family. And
Right.
it's like so small and stupid, but it's be like me personally being able to be like I'm gonna do it
Yeah.
like that was like I really had to be like I was telling my roommate I was like does it make me a bad person if I just do this and she's like no.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. Like, I've been out of the ballet world for like 4 years now. An adult in the world. I can make my own decisions, and I still feel guilty about like certain things like that. Like, that my dance teacher is gonna call me and be like, you should have done this. Like, why weren't you in ballet class? Like,
Literally and like it's not like you're I'm not gonna like it's not like we don't have time after our week before we get
right.
on stage it's gonna like it's gonna happen it's gonna be
Everything's
fine but
gonna be fine.
it was
Yes.
like the dude I'm like gonna miss a rehearsal to like go have fun somewhere like it
Yeah.
feels so like gutting but like it's really not like back
It's
up like
really not. And then you kind of like go down the rabbit hole of like other people's perception of like, oh, she must not want it that much if she's willing to not go to rehearsal. Like that was such a big one.
no
And like
that's so real.
and that's like honestly going back to LBC, like that was the whole like idea behind the name. Like the lazy part of Lazy Ballerina Club is just like choosing yourself and prioritizing your mental wellness shouldn't be considered lazy. And I always felt that whenever I decided to, I don't know, take care of myself in any which way that I needed to in my ballet career, other people's opinions would always trickle in and just be like, "Oh, you don't want it that much. That other person's going to work harder than you," and whatever
Literally.
they say, which is so crazy. But like you can have both. Like
You
I
can have
also
both.
think overworking yourself until you like break as a person is healthy either, you know?
Because I mean, like it's harder to come back from being broken than people being like, "Oh, she doesn't want it bad enough."
Right.
Which like say that I cannot stand. Like it's just that was like my biggest fear is like when I was especially growing up, it was like, "Oh, she doesn't want it bad enough." It's like, but it's like I do, but it's also like I'm sick and dying, you know?
Right.
Like
Right. Like, and you know, you never know what someone else's story is or
no.
what they're going through or, you know, everyone's doing their thing and you just have to stay in your lane. That's what I keep telling myself.
No, truly. And like I mean, I think like you saying that I'm thinking about like I did this show we had this like we might have to hop onto our second meeting here in a second because I'm broke but I will not be paying for Zoom Pro but I remember like I did this show I was like in high school and I was so I'm talking like 103-degree fever like sick off my ass
Oh my
and I
gosh.
remember like I was talking to this guy and I was telling him that story and he was like why did you do that
Right.
and
Right.
it's like I've never considered it till I started like dating real people, like
Yep.
talking to people that have like no idea. They're like,
Yep.
"Why did you do that?" I'm like, "Oh, it's
I
like oh, like you don't view your job like that." You know what I mean? Like,
right. It's really interesting. And like with saying all of this, like, I just want to keep reiterating, like, it is important and we do
It's
sacrifice it because we love it. And like, I don't regret any of the sacrifices that I've made. And at the same time, like, if you don't have the balance with it, that's when you can get into like a little tricky situation. But yes,
no,
normal people look at us like we are crazy
no,
people.
and like I always say that I'm like, yeah, things were crazy, and I like even just next to my twin who like grew up normally, like our childhoods look completely different.
Right.
And it's like
Wow.
I've never looked back and been like, "Oh, I wish like it was different." And it
Right.
was never been like that, which I think I'm very grateful for because there's a lot of people that like, they'll get burnt out on it and they'll lose that love for it and it's like that's your whole life.
Right. Yeah, definitely. I can't imagine having a twin and like having like two like separate lives
Oh,
together.
it's really fascinating because like, I mean, she did like the baby dance because it's like, you have your Midwest mom and what do Midwest moms do? Put their daughters in baby ballet.
Right, right.
Because it's like, what else do you do? It's
Sure.
like, because it's like, oh, they're gonna grow up and it's gonna be like, oh, you danced when you were like 5.
Yes.
And it's just like, it was just so interesting because it's like she never stuck with it and I always did. And it was always just kind of that thing that was like, it was, I mean, looking back, and I obviously at like 6, 7 years old, I didn't have the words for it, but it was always really hard to like see my twin like have friends like because all my friends were at dance because
Right.
I mean I was 8 years old and I was there 5, 6 days a week, so it was
Yep.
really weird to like have a twin in like a really like the school social setting and I was really detached from that because it's
Mm-hmm.
like if you have a birthday party I can't be there,
Yep.
and you're
Yep.
like 7, 8 years old, and it's
Yeah.
like but it's also like I don't like my people were where I was at.
Yeah, for
Like
sure.
we have an international roommate and we were just telling her about 5th grade camp if you did that.
No. What's
It's like
that?
it's a whole thing. So like basically like in 5th grade at our elementary school you would like go on like a little camping trip with all the 5th graders and it was kind of like your last before you go to like junior high or whatever. But like I didn't go. I had
Oh.
like competitions, I was doing stuff, but it's like I don't I don't have any feelings about it, but like we were just talking about like oh, like, people have whole childhood memories that I, like, wasn't a part of,
Yeah, for
which is,
sure.
like, the weirdest thing to think about, like
Yeah. No, it's so funny. I was just talking about this like the other day that I even like with all of my ballet, I missed out on a lot. And at the same time, like with all of the moments that I could do the normal thing, I made it a priority because I was nervous about those feelings, like looking back and regretting it or whatever. And I don't know, some parts of me feels like I might have been overcompensating and maybe I didn't need to go to all of the things that I tried to go to. But I don't know. I think when you're young, like we were saying earlier, like you don't know. You're just trying to do it all and
Yeah.
trying to figure it all out. But
And it's,
yeah,
like, especially in college, like, I have friends obviously, I have friends in the theater and dance department, but I have friends that are, like, sports administration majors, and they're, like, just doing normal life things, and I'll be like
right.
and it's, like, it's a lot easier because it's, like, you can make your own decisions, and it's,
Yep,
like, I can do both. I can go to a hockey game, and I can also go to rehearsal.
exactly.
And we can
Beautiful.
it's beautiful.
Yep.
And it's like just like I mean, I didn't go to my senior prom. Like I went to New York instead of my senior prom.
You know what? That's kind of like amazing.
Like I
Much
was
better than
very
that.
much that person that was like, I'm done.
Yeah, good for you.
I'm done." And I didn't go and I think about it and I'm like, "Nope," because I was dancing and I was in the city I love and I was doing my thing. And it's like I always say that's like my Jimmy Fallon story. Like if I'm ever on Fallon, I'd be like, "I skipped senior prom." Like
You know what? Prom wasn't that exciting, let me
it
tell
really
you.
I went junior year. The best part of the dances is the getting ready and the pancakes afterwards.
You are so right.
It's never the
Spot on.
actual thing.
Never. Never.
But
And like that's like a lot of things in life too.
it
Like it's
really is.
never really like the actual thing. It's always like the in-between moments that make it like
It's
so
always,
good.
I mean, like all of my favorite like college performance memories were like the leading up. Obviously,
So
like being on stage, like that's like I remember the day I made like my collegiate debut. It was actually in a play, but I that was so exciting. But it's also like the best thing was like curling my hair in the dressing room with like the lights.
yes, exactly. It's always the dressing room. That's like one of the biggest things that I miss about being in a ballet company is like the moments in the dressing room or like the moments backstage. Cause like you will
It's
never
so different than like
act that deeply or like you'll never like I don't know. It's hard to explain. You get
it's
it.
no, it's so is because it's like it's just it's you know those photos of like offices and it like kind of feels like a fake place.
Yes.
That's what the wings feel like.
Totally.
You're like somewhere between real life and fake life.
Yep. Yep.
But it's like it's not the uncomfortable way that those like liminal office spaces feel. Like it's safer than that.
Yep.
And every time people ask me, because it's like, I mean, I'm the type of person that I'll go on stage and black out.
Yeah.
Like people will be like, how'd it go? And I'm like,
No
couldn't tell
idea.
you what I just did. Like
So funny. I feel like I'm the opposite. Like I when I was on stage or performing, like I was a little too chill. Like I had to like refocus a lot of the times, but
it's like I always like I'll be on stage and I'll be like dialed in and then I'll get off stage and it's like nothing ever happened. And I'm like,
oh my God, that's so funny.
the true liminal space is the being on stage because it's like the actual on stage memories are like
Yeah,
gone. Like
no idea. No idea.
totally, absolutely gone. But yeah, no, I'll try to tell people about it and I'm like, because I hate roller coasters, but I
Yep.
love the adrenaline of being on stage. I think it's different.
I think so too. I think so too. I
Like,
mean nothing like performing. And
no.
no one like if you haven't been on a stage or haven't performed, you just won't get it until you
And if
do
you're
it.
not to sound like whatever, but like if you're not like us, where it's like that's your heart,
Hmm.
like I mean, I have friends that are like, I would rather get run over by a truck before I go on stage for anything.
Right, right.
And it's like, but like that's where you live. That's where we live. That's where it's like it all
Yes.
is. And I feel
Yes.
like if you gotta be like the right type of person to get it.
Yeah.
Cause I mean
And
like
it's
and I was like a really shy kid. Like I wouldn't talk to people.
right.
I like it was never that, but then it was like I'd get up on stage and it's like who is that? Like she doesn't talk.
But I will say, like, talking on stage is my nightmare. Like, I
Oh,
will
I
dance
love talking on
the night
stage.
away. I will dance. I'll perform through, like, for a million people. If you ask me to talk,
Oh,
no,
I've
thank you.
like definitely okay, wait, I'm gonna transfer us over to our meeting before we get cut off.
Okay.
Okay, we're back. We're back. But no, yeah, I started like theatrical things in high school, but like I really enjoyed talking on stage. Like I think it's kind of fun because
You
I
know
think
what? Yeah.
I think it's because you know what's gonna happen.
See, that's what makes me nervous because I can't trust myself. Like, I don't know what's gonna come out of my mouth. And it's so funny because my dad is a TV host and he is the best. Yeah, just
Weird
I'm telling
flex, okay. What does he
you,
host?
he has hosted like a bunch of shows, but right now he is the host of this show called Temptation Island. I don't
He's
know.
the host
It's
of a
like,
reality dating show.
yeah.
That's so fierce. I was imagining game show.
Well, that's what he's done. Like
Oh,
his
he's done it.
he's done it. He does it
He's
all.
done
But like he is an incredible talker. He can talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And I guess I can too, like in a podcast or a YouTube video, but if I have like a microphone and I'm like looking at people,
Oh
I don't know.
God.
I've just never have done it, you know.
See,
Maybe
that's
it's
that's
something that I
it.
need
Like
to do.
I'll talk on my I'll just sit down on my little podcast and I'll just talk. But it's like, and I'll like read a script day in, day out. But if you asked me to talk like TED Talk, I couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, no, no.
But if we're in like
No,
a play or something, I could
but
knock
like
that out.
I get nervous, like, how do you remember all of that?
The same way
You
you
just,
remember dancing, it's the same part of your brain.
I don't know. I wasn't very good at remembering dancing either. But maybe that's something I need to overcome. 2024. I'll start talking.
Get Goldie in a play.
Exactly. Get me a microphone. Let's see what
Get her
happens.
on stage. Give her a TED Talk or something.
Oh
We need
man.
like a TED. You know they have like the TEDx insert company. We need
Yes.
like a TEDx LBC, and we all just start talking.
I would love nothing more. I feel like sometimes my YouTube channel turns into like my personal TED Talks. Like
I love it.
I
That's
I
what this
love
podcast is.
yeah. It really is incredible and like very therapeutic. But I don't know. Again, I say what I say and I post and then I forget like what I
My biggest thing with this podcast is like I'm gonna say what I think, and that's my outlook on the situation. Like that.
yeah, take it or leave it. This is my opinion and
Yeah.
it's great. It's awesome.
So stuck on your dad being a host. I was not
I know,
expecting
I'm
that.
sorry that I like casually threw that in there,
No, you're
but
fine.
like
Okay, have you ever auditioned for a game show?
I have not.
So that
It's
was the first thing I did when I turned 18.
really
Yes, so I was like all upset because I mean, I turned 18, like it was still sort of COVID times. Like
mm-hmm.
for consideration, the first COVID case in Missouri happened on my 16th birthday,
Oh,
and my sister had COVID on her 18th birthday.
oh
Just for like
no.
record of like where we're at in the timeline.
Oh
But like I was
no.
so mad because it's like also my birthday's in January. So like you can't do anything fun because it's
Right.
blizzarding. And
January
I was
what?
and
Well,
I
January.
was January 15th.
Oh, my brother's the fourth. I was just curious.
Yeah,
Just
January 15th. So like I was mad that all I could do was go register to vote. So I just applied to be on a bunch of game shows and I got kind of far in one of them. And then
Whoa.
they were like, "Well, you're just a student." And I was like,
Oh no. Wait,
they were like, "We kind of Which one?"
where are you living right now?
I'm still in Missouri. I'm in Springfield though.
Okay, so let me see because my dad is currently on tour with what is he doing? The Price is Right live show.
Oh, is Vanna
When
White in that? Can I be Vanna White?
well, I want to see if he's going anywhere close to you. He like
I
goes
think
all
the closest place he'd be going is Juanita K. That is like a touring venue on our college campus.
Oh, interesting.
Like I'm talking, leave my apartment, it's across the street.
Oh my gosh, how funny. I'll look it up. I'll see. I
That's
can't.
so that's so funny.
Yeah.
What like so then I'm sorry this is becoming a conversation about your dad, but like
That's so fun.
does then the audience get to go on stage and play The Price is Right, or do they have people set?
Yes, no, it's the audience. It's like the same show, or I'm so sorry. He did The Price is Right like a couple years ago. Right now he's touring Wheel of Fortune. It's like the same setup. So like the audience comes in, it's the whole deal,
And it's not
ties it.
like a set person, it's like you
Oh,
have the name tag and you get that's
oh yeah.
yeah,
Oh
no,
yeah.
my dream is to be on People Puzzler with Leah Remini.
Oh my goodness, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah,
I
so
believe
I'm hoping
it.
it's like because then you can play the I'm an artist angle, and it's like that's an interesting person to have on TV, you know?
Totally.
Because
Yeah.
you're gonna have like the really smart guy, and you're gonna have the businesswoman, and it's like this girl.
Yes, you need an artist. You always need an
You
artist.
always do, and I mean, if you're making reality TV, you gotta have like the caricatures of people and like turn it up real high.
100%. I'd watch. I'll tune in.
Love to be on a game show. Well, I have some fun questions,
Oh, I
kind of
love it.
just a get to know you fun arts type venue questions.
Okay.
If you came into a lot of money, which artistic hobby would you pick up?
Oh my God, what a fun question. If I got a lot of money?
Like if you won the lottery or something.
Oh my God. I've never thought about that. Uh, I always like my first thought like went to like painting or like crafty, like something like I would buy
Yeah.
all of the like craft items. But then like my next thought is like I'm the least crafty person ever. And then like every time I try to be crafty and I like think I have a good idea, I get frustrated because it's looks nothing like what
Because
I
it's
wanted.
not a good idea.
So maybe I need to rethink that. But that was like the first thing that came to mind, as random
I
as that
would
was.
say that I would start making clothes.
Yeah. Well, that's so interesting that you like view that in like an artistic because it is artistic. You're so right. Wow.
Like I'm in a costume design class right now and like having a great time. And I was like, dude, if I had a lot of money, I would like this would become a thing. Like I'd be one of those girls on TikTok that like make the real life princess dresses. Like that'd be me.
See, I would love for that to be me, but I don't think I am creative enough. Like even when I like customize a leotard and I have to pick the colors for the leotard, I get stressed.
See,
Like
no, I
that's
love that.
ugh, I mean, I love it too, but I think I just like think too much about it. Like I talk myself out of what I am
Are
thinking. I
you
don't
a big like feelings person? Like I'm very much like I'll see something and I'll be like, that's it.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. I'm a deep like if I feel it in my gut or I get like that vibe. I'm big on vibes, you
No,
know?
me too. Big on vibes.
On vibes for sure. Yep.
Big on those. Yeah, and I think that's such like a definitely like coming to school, I'm like, oh, there's other people that think and like feel the thing, you know?
So
Like I asked my sister because she's actually living in Ohio right now. Shout out Allie if you're listening, Cincinnati. Um, but yeah, she's like, she's like talking about wanting to move, and I'm like, have you ever been somewhere where you like feel the thing? And she's like, no. And I'm like, how do you not feel the thing? Like,
she has to go figure it out. She's got
go
to fly.
find the place. I mean, like,
Yes.
as cliche, born and raised in Missouri as it is, I went to New York for the first time with my dad. I was 14.
Yep.
And it was like the most, like, it was the weirdest thing. Like, I felt like I knew where I was. It was
Interesting.
like, when like they have kids on like 60 Minutes and they like talk about a past life they had? Like, it was
Yes.
very much that.
That's so funny.
And
That's
it's like,
great.
and it sounds like romantic and cliche, but it's like I've never felt anything like that before. I've never felt anything like that since.
Oh, I
So
love
it's
that.
like so as I always tell people I'm like there's that thing and you just got to tap into it somehow.
Yeah,
Like
you gotta follow it. You gotta
you got to
follow it.
follow the thing. And I
Yeah.
mean that's like genuinely like why I started the podcast. Like there was a post on the Instagram for the podcast and I was like I was talking to my roommate. I was like I kind of want to start a podcast. She was like, "So why aren't you?"
Yeah, for sure.
And I was
So
like,
why don't you?
"Great
Yeah.
point.
You can't really
Great
argue
point."
with
No. A really solid point.
that.
We have more. So I wrote these questions like I wasn't going to be answering them or asking them. I started this podcast to give advice to my younger self. What would you tell your younger self now?
Ooh, so many things. Sweet baby Goldie. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
Um, I think the first thing I would tell my younger self is it's not that deep and everything's gonna
real.
um and I think I would really tell her that being cool is not the most important thing. You don't have to be cool. You don't have to be too cool for school because I feel like throughout my life that like almost became like a defense mechanism. Like if I was not trying or not going for it, like I wouldn't like no one would see me fail and I was like always too cool to go for it or try. So maybe that I would tell my younger self that you don't have to be so cool all the time. It's okay to like go
I
for things.
I totally get that, but I think like I would almost tell myself kind of the opposite thing. That's like you don't have to bust your ass for everything.
Interesting.
Like obviously there are some things. Like I mean, I have siblings that could like my sisters could stay up all night and then like ace a test. And that's
Right.
like never me. That's never
Right.
me. But I think like in things that I was good at, like I don't think I ever trusted myself enough to just like chill out about it.
Hmm. Interesting. I was a little too chill. Like I said, like I needed some pep in my step, that's for sure.
Yeah, I think I almost like I mean, and you ask anyone that grew up with me, you ask anyone that I went to high school with, they'd be like, that girl had she was wound up, had no chill.
Oh my
I mean, like I
goodness.
even look back on the schedule I had. Like, I mean, I would get up at like 5 in the morning and be home at like 11. Like who I can't even do that now. Who is
Oh,
that? Like
I think about my schedule that I used to have, and I'm just like, how did I ever do that? I'm in bed by like 9 p.m. these days. Like,
me, me,
and
literally.
back in the day, like I would dance all day from 9 to 6. Then I would
Yes.
drive, then I would teach for like 4 more hours. It was just
Yes.
crazy, really
No,
crazy.
literally. And I mean, like, and all my friends from school that are listening know, like, everyone knows that I am not the nighttime emergency contact. I will be in bed 10, like that we say that my state mandated bedtime is 10. Like,
I love that.
like
I
it's
love
like I will be in bed. I will be leaving functions. I will be leaving functions to go to bed.
same.
I mean, obviously, if there's like rehearsals late, I can't control that. I will just be there. But
Right.
it's like, dude, it's like if I can control it, I will be in bed. Like,
I am the exact same way.
and I like look at high school me, and I'm like, what did she have? Like, because I want some of whatever she's having. Like,
Same. Same.
because where did
But
you get that energy? Like,
I have no idea. It's wild. But you know what? Like that's what you do when you're in high school. You know? You have the energy. You have
you
time.
just do all the things,
You just do all the things.
and
So,
also like, I think especially because like it was very much not where I was growing up that was like I was gonna go do this. I think also like in high school I was very much like I gotta make it happen. Like and I'm
right.
still like that, but it's also like girl, you're a step further than you were at 18.
Totally. I mean, look at you. You're doing it. You're
We're
doing the thing.
doing it.
It's happening.
We're doing the thing. And it's like my favorite thing. And this leads into my next fun question that I have. What's something that you thought you couldn't do but did, but not dance related? Like just a life thing.
Ooh,
Mine is write a book.
interesting.
I wrote a book. Like I've always loved writing. Like I wrote a play that was put up on campus. And, like it's a fun little thing. But then I was like, I'm gonna write a whole ass book. And
Wow.
I did. And I'm like sending it out to people and like, can you publish my book? Like
That's awesome.
it kind of
That's really
became like
awesome.
my LBC. I was like, this is my little side gig that I'm gonna have.
Yeah. No, that's great. Wow.
And it was
And
like, because it's like you can sit down and write a play, but it's like, could I write a real book? And it's like I
right.
did it.
Damn.
I did it.
Wow. Amazing.
Thank
Amazing
you.
stuff. Like, what's the question again? Something that I
What's
didn't think
something
I could do?
and then you did it and you were like, oh, work. Like
I guess, hmm, I don't know. I guess start a YouTube channel and like do that, but that's not that exciting.
no, but it is exciting.
Let me think of something. I mean, graduate high school. That was
There it
definitely
is.
something I was like, that's never gonna happen. And then I did it and I was like, oh my God, done.
And
Amazing.
it's like even like small little things. I'll be like, Taylor, you wrote a whole book. Like, this is
Yeah.
not that hard.
I
Like you
mean, no,
graduated high school. This is
but
not that big.
but like writing a book, oh my God,
So
that's
like it really was out of necessity because it was like my first summer at my parents' new house. I didn't know anyone. I was there for 3 months. I worked this retail job. I do enjoy my retail job there, but it's like
yeah. You had
it was
some
like
time.
I was like I just needed something to like do.
Yeah, for
Because it's like
sure.
you're not there long enough to like meet people for real. Because also
Yeah.
if everyone my age is there, they're home and then gonna go back to school. Like it's
Right.
very much like people are like, "Oh, where do you go home to?" I'm like, I'm
Right.
like I go to
Yeah.
my parents' house and I like have to GPS to get gas. Like it's
Oh,
but it's
yeah.
like it really came out of necessity and then kind of was just like, "Oh, I enjoy doing this and I love
Then
this." And it was
you
like
wrote a
kind of a
book.
fun little thing. Wrote a book.
Awesome. That's great.
Yeah, wrote a book. But yeah, have you and then this I said they were going to be like adjacent questions, but they're not. So I like I was talking about recently started doing like big choreography pieces. Have you ever choreographed anything that you've really enjoyed?
Oof. I am a new choreographer. I have to choreograph
Same.
a bunch for my students at my
Yes.
studio. And I was never the dancer that ever had any interest in choreographing. I see it in my head, but some dancers like are inspired by it and that's how
Yeah.
they like express themselves. And I was never that dancer, but I have choreographed some things. And I think like each time I choreograph, I like obviously grow and like compared to the first time I did it to now, like I'm much more comfortable, but it really is such a different experience like being at the front of the room and like being the one choreographing than like dancing. So I have choreographed. It's not my favorite thing to do, but I will do it. And
That was definitely
I,
like because we take like they're called composition, but we take
yep.
choreography classes that kind of span different genres and stuff. And that was definitely like the very first time I set anything on my peers, I was like, oh, I run this. This is my decision. And like I literally just had a rehearsal and one of my dancers was like, Taylor, this is your room.
Oh
Make
my
the
God.
call. And I was like, oh my God, you're so right.
Yeah,
Like
totally. It's
make the
definitely a
call.
different dynamic for sure.
It's so and it's like it's also double because it's like these are your peers, but it's also like you're
Right.
also a dancer, but it's like it was she literally was like, dude, this is your room. Just like make the call. We don't care. Like and I was like, oh my God, you're
Wow.
so right.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
it
definitely
is exciting.
something to learn.
Yeah, for sure. For sure, for sure. I feel like I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Definitely. And just like finding your voice in that way, like,
Yeah.
and exploring because when you're on the other side, you can't really explore that much because you're just doing what the choreographer is telling
Yeah.
you to do. And then you have all this freedom and you're like, oh my God,
I'm like, oh man. Yeah.
what do I do? You know?
I did want to also talk about teaching because I also teach to
Yep.
make money. And
Yes.
you do the babies too, don't you? The little babies?
All of them. I
Oh,
have
all the babies.
every age, like my youngest is 2 and my oldest are my seniors. So I see
Yep.
all of them.
Virtual high five for that one.
Like, oh my God. Woo.
And
I mean,
I'm
I love
like,
it. I love it, but
you love it, but I mean, I do tell people, I'm like, teaching the little kids is what pays the bills.
yes.
Choreographing at college is what creatively fulfills me. Like,
Totally. Yes, for sure. I
and
mean,
I,
I think I got very lucky with the studio that I teach at. Like because I have both, I have the little ones and the older ones. Like as soon as I'm sick of the little ones, I can go to the older ones and like
yeah,
vice versa. Because the older ones, they have their other things that they bring into class too.
yeah,
So
yeah. You kind of have a little bit I like, and I kind of like having a little bit of both.
yes.
But it's also like, it's just really fun because like a lot of the times it's like, you see these kids that just love it and you're
Yep.
like before anything happens, before it's their career, before whatever, and it's like, dude, that was you or like me, it's
Yes.
like,
Yes.
and sometimes
Yeah.
I have to be like, remember, like I mean, like it melts my brain to think about like if any of them like become a star or ballerina one day or whatever. It's like my first dance teacher and it's gonna be me.
Right. Oh, I have those moments all the time. Like
Oh, I
I'm
think about that all the time. I was like, that's me.
yeah.
Because like Heather Sparks was my first dance teacher. And I don't really know what she's up to now, but it's like I will never forget
Oh,
who
I
my
will
first
never
teacher
forget
was.
Miss Corrine. She was so scary, and I will never forget her. She had bright red hair,
Oh.
and like she felt like she was like 7 feet tall, and she probably
Yes.
thinks it's just normal, but in my little brain, She was just,
Oh god, they're so yes.
you know,
And it's like also my favorite thing about like not the super tinies, but like a little bit like we're talking like 5, 6, 7, is like they just say stuff that's so out of pocket.
oh my God. I feel like this can be a whole other podcast. Like, I have a memory of I used to have like very long hair. Like, I guess it's pretty long right now, but then I chopped it
Mm.
and I go in to my little, like, I think she was 5 or maybe 4, and she looked at me. She's like, "Oh my God, I hate you with short hair. I only liked you because of your long hair." And I'm like, "Okay, happy Monday. Like, let's go." Like, oh my God.
My favorite one to tell is she was probably like 6 or 7, but she goes, Miss Taylor gets like real close to me. Miss Taylor, do you have kids? And I was
Oh
like,
my,
no. And she goes, are you married? And I was like, no. She goes, do you have a boyfriend? I was like, no. She goes, so what are you doing?
literally,
I was like,
literally.
blame her because all the adults in her life are like
Oh yeah,
teachers
exactly.
with kids.
Yes, my kids ask me all the time, "Why aren't you married? Like, what's wrong with you?"
Literally, I'm just a baby. Like,
Just a baby. I don't know anything.
no,
Like,
literally. And it's like, it's
crazy.
so, dude, that age is crazy. Because it's like, they don't also quite know that they like, they don't know to like filter any, like, just like thought phrase. Like,
No. I mean, it really is incredible. Like, some of the things that come out of their mouths, like, I don't even know what to say back to it. I just like let them.
I'm just like,
I'm like, all right, that's what we're doing today. Love it.
I'm like, right, it's 6 p.m. on a Tuesday. Like, chill out. Like,
Yeah, chill out. It's wild. But I love them. I really do love them. They crack me up.
and with your studio, you made a performance debut recently.
Oh
You
my
had
God.
your little Audrey. Was it an Audrey Hepburn dance?
It sure was.
I
And
saw it and I was like, oh my God, she's Breakfast at Tiffany's. And I didn't know if it was like supposed to be that, but it was that in my heart.
oh, it was supposed to be that. And it's so funny because they asked me to do it and I thought they were kidding at first. And they really were not kidding. And I was on stage and it was an interesting experience being on stage with my students, like, because
Yeah.
they were looking at me in such a different way that, like, the only time I've been on stage is like with my peers and like
Yeah.
other dancers. And it was definitely a different approach because, like, I felt like they were all looking at me and like what I was doing and, oh my gosh, Miss Goldie, like what? Oh my God, It was a very sweet moment looking back, but I was definitely a little rusty for
Yeah. But
sure.
it was definitely like, because my very first season teaching at the studio I work at, we had a girl like in my like, God, they're like 15, 16 slash, she got like super injured. And I was like, they're like, Taylor, you're going on stage. You know it. It's your dance.
Oh my
Like, we didn't have
goodness.
time to switch it. So I was like,
Okay.
okay.
Yeah.
So I like squeezed in this girl's costume and I was like, here we go. And it
There
was
we
like,
go.
it was just so weird because it's like they know that this is what I do, like at school. But like to
Right.
them, I just like tell them what to do.
Yes.
And they were like,
That's
oh, you're doing the like it's such a weird dynamic.
Oh yeah. Well, like that's like sometimes my kids drive me crazy because they look at me like I have 3 heads and I want to look back at them and be like, trust me. Like I know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. Like trust me. But when you're kids, you think you know everything. And that's a whole other conversation.
I my biggest thing is like, you have those like the like middle not middle age, but like middle range that are just like, when you're like kind of in middle school and you're like kind of trying to be cool. And I'm
Yeah.
like, guys, you have this easier than I did. Like, you are so lucky that I don't treat you the way I was treated. Like,
I say that all the time. I look at my kids and I say, you have no idea how lucky you are that I am your teacher. Like, never forget it. I literally like go like this to them, like, you better like remember how lucky you guys are.
yes. I'm like, because then you're gonna meet someone who grew up like we did, and you're gonna be like stunned about it.
Totally. They have no idea how
That's my
good they are.
favorite thing. Or
It's
like,
crazy.
especially if they're like the teenagers, like the seniors, I'll get real creative. If they want to give me attitude, I'll be like, And I'll snatch your liver. Like, I get real
Oh,
creative.
oh my gosh, I
Oh yeah.
love getting sassy back to the kids
Oh, I'm like, give me
because they
attitude. I'll
don't
give it to
see
you
it
right back.
coming. They do not see it
No.
coming. I'm just like, oh, you're gonna roll your eyes at me? Watch me do it 10 times harder.
Ready. And
Like
I think like
I was you at your age.
yes.
I've done all the things,
And
you
they
know.
they really be like, Taylor, you're 20 and I'm like 16. I'm like, that's a big jump. Like I think of my 16-year-old self.
Oh
It's
yeah.
I
Oh
don't think
yeah.
that they gauge. I'm like, guys, I know things. Please take me
Yes.
seriously. Like,
Yes. I mean, even like I'm 28 and even like my 15-year-olds, they're like, whatever, like we're the same. I'm like, no, we're not. We're not, but that's okay.
not. It's
I'll love you
okay.
through it, but
We're doing the thing. So this Audrey Hepburn piece, because I like literally remember seeing it. I was like, oh, it's Audrey Hepburn. So did you like set that? Did someone else set it?
um so I it's interesting because when I actually was like training and competing, I did a solo to that same piece of music.
Yeah.
And when they asked me to do it, I was like, do you want me to choreograph this? Or like, do you want me to do my solo? Or what am I doing here? And we actually have like a very, very great choreographer at our studio. And I was like, can you just help me? Like, it feels weird to choreograph a solo for myself for my kids' dance recital. Like, I can't do this like right
Right,
now.
right.
So she helped me choreograph it. And then I actually like set the like students part. And it was such a sweet moment. It was kind of like a full circle moment because of my solo when I was competing back in the
You're
day.
like, I did this as like a youngin.
Yes, exactly. So it was cute. Looking back, it was very cute,
Yeah, it
even though it
was
to do it.
my biggest full circle moment was to kind of fulfill my heart. I gave my 5-year-old tappers the song that I tapped to at 5 years old.
Oh, I love
I
that.
literally was sitting there and I was like, I don't know what I want to do. I had no ideas. And I was like, no, let's bring it all together.
That's awesome. I really love that.
Which,
That's
like,
great.
they'll never know. But, like, in my heart, I was like, this is it.
Yes. And that's all that matters.
And
We
that's all
do
that matters. And you know what? And, that's the age where they can be sparkly and, like, it doesn't matter if they do it well because they're cute.
exactly.
And I'm like, you're cute and you're shiny and you're sparkly.
Yep, everything's gonna be good. Just smile and
Just
you're gonna
smile.
be good.
The most life-changing, the best thing about, like, life-changing teacher thing is, like, seeing the kids like be proud of themselves. Like it sounds so silly, like, but it's like I
Oh,
see the
totally.
girls like they like the first time they do the dance without me and they're
Yes.
like it's
I
so
remember
yeah.
my like first recital with like my babies. And when you're in class with the little ones, like they really do what they want to do.
They really
And
do.
there was one class that like I did not see their dance like the whole like they didn't do their dance start to finish once. And I was like having
Oh,
panic attacks the night before the recital because I'm
yeah.
out of control. Like I can't do anything about it. And they come on stage and they do that dance so perfectly that like my jaw was on the floor and half of me was like crying because I was so proud and then the other half was crying because they just put me through hell not showing me one time that they were doing the dance and then they did it perfectly on the
Sometimes I
stage.
think they do it just to mess with us.
I think so too.
Like sometimes
I
I really think these kids be messing around just to do it.
Oh yeah, because I used to do the same thing when I was a student. And honestly, this is like I always think about this. When I started teaching, I messaged my teacher and apologized for the student that I was. And I was like, I'm so sorry. And now that I teach, I understand. I understand because now I'm teaching a baby Goldie version of myself. And it's karma for everything.
She said the universe was out to get me for that one.
100%. 100%. I was such a little rat, but that's okay. I've
I
learned.
think the biggest thing for me was like seeing because like I mean the first good chunk of my dance career was very like dance moms, compete every weekend type energy. And I always remember there being a lot of like parent drama, but then the first time it happened to me,
Yeah.
I was like,
Crazy.
Like, I just remember, like, it's so different when you're a student because you're like, I'm just here to dance.
Yes, for
But then the
sure.
first time it happens to you and you're the person at the front of the room, you're like,
Yeah, it's so
whoa,
weird.
like, it's
It's
so
so weird.
weird.
I always forget that I'm the adult in the room. Like, I have to,
Literally,
like, look
literally.
around, like, "Oh, wait. Yeah, that's me. Interesting."
Oh, they'll be
Like,
like, hey, what time is this? I'm like, oh, yeah,
I don't know. Like,
like I'm
I know
supposed to, like,
I
know the things.
I look at them, I'm like, "I don't have the answers. Like, go find another teacher. Like, I'll support you and I'll help you learn ballet,
Go find a
but
better adult. Like,
I'm not an adult." Like,
no, literally me. I'm like, go find a better adult. Like, I'm an adult in the sense that I know more than you, but also I don't know enough more than you to, like, help you through this.
exactly. Like, and I wanna pick and choose when I'm an adult and when I'm not an adult. So,
We
that's
need to
where
keep
we're
doing that. Start
at.
that in 2024 for real.
Exactly.
Real, for real. But to kind of, we got a good 7-minute timer left here. But
Yeah.
to close up, big things for LBC coming up. If you're not in the, what are those called on Instagram? Like the group chats, but like we can't text back.
Oh, I know. It's such a bummer because I
What
thought
are those?
I
Cause I just like
don't know.
start adding myself to them.
I don't know. I guess like technically, like I don't even know. I thought like people could message back and that's why I started. But
So
then
that's
I
why
like,
that's what I thought. So cause like a bunch of my creators that I like really enjoy and like interact with, I'm like, oh yeah, let me just like join that chat room or whatever. And then I was like, why am I
yeah,
here?
I know. It's such a bummer. But there are actually like
Oh yeah,
very
because you
exciting
send some exciting things in the chat room.
there's some very exciting things and I don't want to say too much, but
Does the
I'm very
podcast get an exclusive?
I mean, I feel like you can put two things together and um I might be in the process of creating something for LBC.
She's a creator.
No, something that we might be able to wear all together. But I don't know.
Team merch.
No, I don't know. We'll see. I'm also like I've been thinking about wanting to like start like a focus group or something. Like I want to start talking to people and getting
A
like other
think
people's
tank, if you
opinions.
will.
A think tank, exactly. Because I have all of these thoughts and I need some
Hear me
advice.
out.
Yes.
KC's pretty central.
Uh-huh.
Put you up in the parents' house, and
Yes. I
we
love
all
it.
just migrate.
And then we go to our breakfast place and we
Right.
get my
Oh, no,
favorite.
the think tank happens at the breakfast place.
Perfect. Done. I love it.
There it is.
There it
Catch
is.
that in the chat room. We'll make the plans.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, everyone just shows up at my parents' house. We're like,
Yep, here we are.
here we are.
I love it.
Yes. No, I'm going. I literally wrote that place down. Mildred's breakfast.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
jealous.
so thrilled. I'm so thrilled about it. Well, in our final minutes, do you have any final pieces of advice? We're kind of general closing
Hmm.
out before I give my little ending spiel.
Well, before you give your spiel, I'll give my spiel and say thank you for having me on. And it was so fun to actually like chat with you and meet you or get to know you in like a real way. And yeah, I'm so excited for you and everything that you are
Thank
about.
you.
And this was so fun.
Yes, it's been like I was like, setting up season 2 and I was like, I really wanted to be like interview based, kind of talk to a bunch of people, and I was like, first person I sent this message to, I was like,
Oh, I
we're getting Goldie on the
love it.
podcast.
Yay. I'm so glad.
Yes, but it's been great. So, Goldie, where can we find you online if we want to follow along?
You can follow me at Lazy Ballerina Club on Instagram and Goldie Jane on YouTube and Goldie Jane on TikTok too.
Yep, and then
And
I'll link those in the show notes, so you are all good. I guess I'll do my ending spiel. Oh, okay. This was such a fun time.
yay.
Thank you for coming along on this episode of the BFA Baby Podcast. If you want to keep following along, you can follow BFA Baby Podcast on Instagram and Lazy Ballerina Club on Instagram. All that information in the show notes. Married and a kiss. Thanks for listening. Mwah. You want to blow a
Yay.
kiss? You want to blow a kiss?
Oh,
Mwah.
ah,
Thank you for coming on.
thank you for having me.
Of course, have a great rest of your night.
You too. Bye.